since we met yesterday, there's a lot more bullishness, even about this summit tomorrow. Caroline Levitt said on Fox and Friends there will be a joint press conference afterwards. At least that's the plan. And President Zelensky, President Putin this morning sounded pretty optimistic about the meeting. Here's Putin from just a few hours ago.
To tell you about the stage we are at with the current American administration, which, as everyone knows, is making, in my opinion, quite energetic and sincere efforts to stop the hostilities, stop the crisis, and reach agreements that are of interest to all parties involved in this conflict in order to create long-term conditions for peace between our countries and in Europe and in the world as a whole. If by the next stages we reach agreements in the area of control over strategic offensive weapons.
Just quickly, thank you, Dan. It's going to be an interesting day in the markets. Dow futures down 200 just ahead of the open on news that the inflation came in much hotter than expected. Wholesale inflation up almost a full point. So we'll talk about that.
And that's just for 1 month.
Yeah, just for the month. That's right. Okay, here's Caroline Levitt previewing the summit on Fox and Friends moments ago.
And thanks to President Trump's determination to bring this war to an end, both Russia and Ukraine have engaged in direct diplomatic discussions. They have exchanged prisoners of war and discussed other humanitarian issues. And you've seen the president engage directly with both leaders as well, over the phone numerous times with President Putin and in person several times with President Zelensky. The Russian president requested this meeting with the president tomorrow, and the president wants to exhaust all options to try to bring this war to a peaceful resolution. So tomorrow, bright and early, he will be departing the White House for our joint military base in Anchorage, Alaska, where he will engage in a one-on-one meeting with President Putin, which will be followed by a bilateral lunch with the respective delegations from both countries, and then a press conference. And so what comes after that meeting is up to President Trump, and that's part of the reason he is going. He has incredible instincts, and he wants to sit down and look the Russian president in the eye and see what progress can be made to move the ball forward to end this brutal war and to restore peace.
You know, Caroline.
So this isn't going to be a 2-minute meeting because no matter what happens with the leaders, they're going to have lunch, presumably some grilled salmon, and then they're going to do a press conference. Of course, that could change.
So I just for clarity, I want to say that I heard her say then there'll be a press conference. That I didn't hear her say joint press conference. There might have been further clarity afterwards, but I didn't hear her say a joint press conference. I know everyone's jumping to that.
Yeah.
I'm only holding that out because that may have been, I think there's been some reporting because Caitlin Collins took the talking points of the Kremlin and pushed them out there. So I don't know if that was the basis by which everyone else is saying it, but we know there's a press conference. I wouldn't be still surprised if it's one-on-one. Yeah. I think people are just jumping to a conclusion because, you know, CNN is pushing these Kremlin talking points out.
Yeah, I got a text from somebody saying it was going to be a joint press conference, but I haven't heard back from them, and I asked them to clarify. So we'll see. But you're absolutely right to make that clarification. So again, if you look at all the reporting, and Zelensky's still in Europe, he's in London today, I believe. The Europeans and Zelensky seem pretty good about a unified front with the United States. The president, I hear a lot of chatter on the left. Oh, Putin's going to trick him, and he's going to be duped by Putin, and you know he's given Putin everything he wants. Well, the president's right. As a matter of policy, he really hasn't given Putin everything he wants, either in the first term or in this term. And in fact, he's done things like cancel the pipeline that wasn't done by the previous administration. And he's did things in the first term, like send missiles to the Ukrainians that President Obama chose not to do. So his record confronting Putin and the threats he's making confronting Putin, if this summit doesn't go well, seem pretty clear, despite the rhetoric that confounds all of us. So, Sean, as John McCain would say, the summit has been previewed every possible way, but not everybody's done it. So where are you right now and going into this? What are you looking for? What are you concerned about? How optimistic are you that some good will come from it?
So what am I looking for? I'm looking for the expansion of topics. I think there's a lot more beyond Ukraine that the President Putin could talk about, and that Putin and Trump may try to go to. Additional nuclear options start to expire next year. There's potential additional trade. Putin wants back into certain organizations. My point is, I have a feeling that this conversation may delve into a lot of additional areas well beyond Ukraine, so that the president can say, we talked about all these other things as well. And then he can walk away with a deliverable so he can say, hey, we talked about Ukraine. I've got some ideas. I'm going to huddle back with the other folks. But we also made progress on some nuclear stuff. And I just frankly, I love listening to the president say the word nuclear. We've got to do the nuclear. Is always fun to listen to. So I think that's where I wouldn't be surprised seeing a lot of this head into other subjects. I am interested, like I'm fascinated by this idea that everybody keeps talking to him. I still don't believe, I still hold out hope that I think he could walk away from this and saying, I got these 5 things. Like I think he's playing good leader by listening to all these folks, but I'm still not convinced that he's just going to walk away and, come back and say it was a listening session. I wouldn't be surprised if we had contours of some kind of deal.
Yeah. Dan, before you go, Michael Levitt, Caroline Levitt, according to Michael Daly, who watched her appearance as if it were the Zapruder film, says that she was asked joint press conferences. She said, yes, that's the plan, joint press conference. So she's saying that. Okay. Dan, same question. What are you looking for? What are you concerned about? What are you hopeful about?
So I think we now have a sense of what Trump's plan is going into this. And I'm pretty happy with it. I think it sounds pretty good. It sounds like he's aligned with the Europeans. Now he could change his mind. I think the question is, what is Putin's goal? Is he going? I mean, he's a strategic thinker. He's always playing the long game. He always has stuff up his sleeve. Is he going in to charm Trump, to try to get him to soften up, to as Sean said, hey, there's a lot of areas where we can do business, we can do deals, we can, oil exploration? Or does he go in, which has been Putin's history in some meetings, to confront, to lecture, to try to convince Trump why he's kind of wrong, or Zelensky's wrong and Europe's wrong? And how does Trump handle that? Does he sit there and calmly listen? Because Trump's history is not to be lectured, not to be told he's wrong. So I'm really curious what Putin's going to try to do. And in those first couple minutes, how does Trump handle it?
Yeah, I agree.
Well,
go ahead.
I was going to say that remember what Caroline also said, it's a one-on-one. Obviously, there'll have to be an interpreter in there, but I think that's going to be the interesting thing. Is it's going to, when they come out, do they both share the same analysis of what they agreed to? And I get the president's distrust of some of the bureaucrats that have been in the room in the past, and how they've interpreted things, and why he's skeptical of bringing additional people in there. But it will be interesting to see if they share an analysis coming out of that meeting of what they did agree to.
The people who put the languages in the other language, my understanding is they like to be called interpreters rather than translators. No, other way around. They like to be called translators, not interpreters, because they in diplomatic circles, they don't like to be thought of as interpreting what was said. You see my point? I know. Yeah. I learned that the hard way at the UN when I referred to interpreters, and they bit my head off. So Dan, I agree with you. It seems like we know the president's initial posture, and that the biggest variable is two related variables: is what is Putin's posture, and how does Trump deal with it? And my sense is, just from everything he said publicly and from people I've talked to, he's going to basically say, cut the crap. Like, we're not here to lecture or pussyfoot around. Like, we all know what's going on. And I'll be curious to see if he threatens sanctions and other moves if Putin's not playing ball. Also curious about who's going with him, right? Like Rubio, certainly is going. Is Bessent going? I don't know. But I'll be curious to see who's in that bilateral lunch at the table.
JD Vance is there?
No, I think he's still in England. But interesting to see, because if Bessent's there, obviously there's the economic component, which Sean raised, could be an issue. All right, we'll obviously talk about this again.
And obviously Witkoff's got to be there. Is Kellogg there? Right? Does Kellogg make the trip? Which I sort of have a feeling the Russians don't want anyone there.
Yep.
On the Ukraine side.
Yep. Totally agree. All right. Want more great clips like that? I've got an idea. Hit the subscribe button. Be part of the Two-Way community. Never miss a clip. And you can always watch our full episodes. Join them live. Go to twoway.tv.